What do you make of a country like ours about which what I just said is the truth?
So what I think about that is that we're a country in quick decline, right? So it started, as far as I can tell, somewhere around 1980, when they started decimating unions. Reagan famously fired Patco, which set the tone for what we're living in now, right? The biggest income inequality since the Gilded Age, even before that. And no one seems to care. Barack Obama was president for 8 years. He didn't do a damn thing about it. In fact, he made the banks bigger, made the Bush tax cuts permanent, took us from 2 wars to 7, opened the Arctic to drilling twice whenever Shell Oil asked, put fracking pipes underneath this country, and then he allowed cops to crack the heads of peaceful protesters at for Occupy Wall Street from coast to coast. And now, when they force everyone's businesses to shut down, the government doesn't even take care of them. So there's many ways to take care of this besides the way they did, which was let everybody get fired or laid off, and then they have to apply for unemployment insurance, and then the Small Business Administration is going to, through the banks, give money to the small. It was a cluster screw up. And what they did in Germany is what we should have did here. Is they just wire the money into the business's bank account so they don't have to lay anybody off. They keep paying their workers until the government says you can go back to work. So then you just seamlessly go back into the workplace. Now, it's not like that was a secret, that they didn't know that was a plan that they could do. They didn't want to do it. They didn't, not only that, they didn't give us health care at the beginning of a pandemic. We're in a pandemic and they don't immediately give people health care. What kind of a government does that? Well, in the words of Dylan Ratigan, a rapacious oligarchy. So now we're what we used to do to countries overseas, use our military to overthrow their government, install a puppet dictator, so then we can steal their natural resources for our Western governments. Well, we didn't do that here in the United States. We didn't need a military to overthrow our government because our government's already been captured by corporations. It's the corporate capture of our government. And the Princeton study revealed years ago that we don't even live in a democracy anymore. What we do live in is an oligarchy. Well, I would say a rapacious oligarchy. And people are what you're seeing now happening, this social phenomena was predicted the day they passed the CARES Act. So when they make everybody shut down their and now they can't have no income, no economic activity, and the government doesn't come in and take care of them. But instead, what the government did with the blessing of Bernie Sanders was they committed that largest upward transfer of wealth in the history of humankind. And they had practiced doing this in 2008. It took them months to do it. So what that was a big transfer of wealth upward again. And they did it this time, but they did it within days. A week it happened with the CARES Act. And what was the CARES Act? The CARES Act was they took $5 trillion. They gave it to the richest 1,000 people in the country while everyone else had no money. And so so now while all the assets are depressed, there's only a handful of people who have all this money, and they're going to go buy up all these distressed assets that are now devalued. And then when the rest of us start to get money again, all those prices are going to be reinflated. So this is going to, again, explode the income inequality. And so what's happening right now is we are living in the effects of a rapacious oligarchy that literally is legislating against its own citizens. You know, the government right now, the propaganda is to get us angry at China. And if you know anything about the economics of China and the United States, China didn't set up this system. We set this up. Capitalists in America set up a system where we would outsource our manufacturing to slave labor, and then they would get a tax cut for it because their government is captured by those same corporations. So that's what we're living. So that's what it makes me think. We don't have to have 40 million unemployed. We don't have to have people without health care. We are rich enough to take care of all of this. And I think the fact that people are catching on to that is why they're in the streets right now.
All right, Jimmy, two connected questions flowing directly out of what you said. First question: will Trump, the GOP, and the Democrats that are working with them in the government, will they be able to get away with all of this? Will the American people accept everything you just said? Or are these protests that we've seen in the last 10 days, are they the beginning of a genuine opposition? And before you answer, where in all of this would you locate the Democratic Party making the decision to have Joe Biden their candidate in the election?
I do not. So when this COVID virus pandemic hit and we became aware of it, and it was predicted by Dylan Ratigan on my show, and we all agreed that they were going to have to do Medicare for all and a UBI. And I asked Dylan at the time, like, well, why would they do that? They hate that. And he said, well, they're out of options. Well, it turns out there was another option. The other option was let people go without health care or money. And now you're seeing the result of it. And their answer to this is Joe Biden. And it's so amazing to me that Bernie Sanders ran for president in 2016, was cheated by the DNC and Hillary Clinton. Unbelievable corruption in the DNC primary. Bernie Sanders didn't do a damn thing about it. And then for 4 years didn't organize against the DNC. He organized for them. He was their political outreach. So what his job was to go get progressives and bring them into the Democratic Party so then the party could squash them. Instead of what Bernie Sanders should have been doing was using these 4 years to build a force outside the Democratic Party to actually be to pull them left or to be an alternative to them. So what Bernie Sanders was doing was actually making sure a third party didn't organize and didn't foment. And so now the Democrats have Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the reason we have Trump. I don't know. The reason why the prison population exploded, Joe Biden. The reason why we have a deregulation of the banking system, which created 8 million people getting kicked out of their house in the last recession, that was Joe Biden. If you want to know why people don't have health care, it's because Joe Biden and Barack Obama did a health care plan that was invented in the Heritage Foundation and is a giveaway to Big Pharma and a giveaway to the health insurance company. So why do people all of a sudden the Democrats think the antidote to Trump, the thing that caused him? And that's what people can't get through their head. And Bernie Sanders is such a coward politically that he would not give the autopsy to the Joe Biden, Barack Obama administration, which is what this country needs. People don't know how we got to Donald Trump. We got it because Barack Obama legislated exactly the same way John McCain and Mitt Romney or George Bush would have legislated, almost exactly. And that's why we're in the position we're in today. And right now, Barack Obama lives on a 49-acre estate on Martha's Vineyard. And where the hell is he? What's he doing? So do I think that our government is going to actually be able to pull us through this? No. Do I think that the effects of these protests are going to have lasting reformative effects? I don't know. I really don't think so. I think that the corporate state is just figuring out new ways to squash it. Just look how the cops co-opted the kneeling, and then they would kneel and then get up and tear gas everybody and start clubbing the hell out of them. So you got to be our government is now it's like we're in an abusive relationship with our own government. And there's no help. Nancy Pelosi, the squad, they're a failure. The squad is a complete 100% failure, along with Bernie Sanders. Not only did they not stand up and try to help people through the CARES Act when this was being passed, they did nothing. What they did was they voted for it. They actually committed an evil. Now they gave cover to the rapacious oligarchy who's screwing you, who is actually, so now Bernie Sanders and the squad and every progressive in Congress signed off on the largest upward transfer of wealth in the history of the human race. You tell me what they're worth. They're worth less. So that's why people are in the streets. They see what's happening. So I really don't think this government is able to reform itself. We'll see. Bernie Sanders right now, this moment was created for him, Richard. This moment was created. He has the solutions to our problems right now. Medicare for all, get rid of student debt. We all have to have a UBI, a Green New Deal. He has all the answers, yet he won't push for them right now because he is a subservient to the Democratic Party. He is bending the knee. He can't do it fast enough. He's sitting there trying to tell me that Joe Biden, who is a demented walking death rattle, who is the cause of all of our problems right now, is somehow the solution. It is an unbelievable dishonest act by not only Bernie, but the entire Democratic Party and the media. They won't tell you he's demented, and it's obvious to anybody that he is suffering from early onset dementia. And that is not your answer. And you think Trump's not going to bring that up? So the problem is we have one one-party rule. And that's what people don't realize. As Nancy Pelosi was ripping up Donald Trump's speech at the State of the Union, she was passing his legislative agenda in full, including giving him an extra $131 billion to go drop bombs on people that they say he's doing at the behest of Vladimir Putin, but also money for his border wall. Do you understand the capitulation of the Democratic Party? It's actually not a capitulation, Richard. They're actually on the same team. Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi work for the same guy. This is professional wrestling. They have to come out and pretend to not like each other. They have to come out and pretend to put on a fight when they're all working together behind the scenes, and you know that as well as I do.